is the Banner Baseball Show. Paul Mancano joined by Andy Kostka and Kyle Goon on a Friday afternoon in July. We are mere days away from the trade deadline, but Mike Elias said we don't need to wait until Tuesday. We can make a splash now. And that's exactly what he did. A stunning move, trading veteran outfielder Austin Hayes to the Philadelphia Phillies in exchange for reliever Seranthony Dominguez and outfielder Cristian Pache. We're going to break down this move from every single angle. Let's start with you, Andy. How surprised were you that the Orioles made this move with days to go before free agency? And it's a move that we rarely see between two contending teams. These are two of the best teams in all of baseball. It's not like the Orioles are getting a veteran from a bad team, from a rebuilding team. No, the Phillies are good. They're going for it, and so are the Orioles.
Yeah, so it's a trade that is mutually beneficial for both teams. The Phillies needed a right-handed outfielder that could hit. Cristian Pache is a right-handed outfielder, but with all due respect, he's not Austin Hayes level in terms of batting. It really the big thing. I would focus more on the Hayes for Seranthony Dominguez. Baltimore gets a flamethrowing reliever, averages 97.6 in the fastball. He has a slider that he uses a lot to good effect. 4.75 ERA for Dominguez is a little bit misleading there. He's been unlucky. StatCast has him with an expected 3.25 ERA, so that factors in, potentially like plays players should have made, things of that nature, or bounces that just go against a pitcher. He also has an expected 213 batting average against, so good numbers there. Overall, though, this is kind of a way. Austin Hayes was under contract for next year. Well, not under contract, but under team control for next year. One last year of arbitration. He was being phased out of the outfield, was not playing every day as he has since 2019, pretty much. If you think about just, he's been a regular here for many years now, but Colton Cowser has really taken over that everyday spot in left field and center field when needed. So I suppose I'm not as surprised as I initially was, just because, this is Austin Hayes. It seemed like kind of the end of the road. This could be an opportunity to get a more playing time for Heston Kjerstad in the outfield, which they definitely value. Maybe more playing time for Kyle Stowers if there is some sort of roster machination that allows that to happen. Pache, I believe, is out of options, so he will be on the major league roster unless there is a DFA at some point. And potentially, that it could have been a decision from, we don't really know exactly, but it could have been a decision from the Phillies to kind of cut some salary there. Even if the O's don't plan to keep him long term, we don't know that. That's on the horizon. But at this very moment, this is a Austin Hayes going to a contender. Hayes in July, not an everyday player, but has performed very well, hitting 329 with a 952 OPS in these 2 months. So good for Austin Hayes. He should get an opportunity in Philly. And I've seen plenty of Twitter comments about, and first thing is to never read Twitter comments, but people kind of dismissing Austin Hayes as if he wasn't a giant member of this team. And I think it is really important to remember that Austin Hayes is one of 3 guys that was here before the rebuild began. And he has played a huge role in getting Baltimore here. He was a team leader in that clubhouse. Guys loved him. This is a major shakeup, and it wasn't most likely not an easy decision at all. There's going to be a lot of heavy hearts in Baltimore because they lost a guy like Austin Hayes.
Yeah, we just had a podcast literally yesterday where I was talking about the report that the Orioles could be shopping some of their veterans, including Cedric Mullins and Ryan Mountcastle. And my biggest pushback for that idea, for that line of thinking, was that the Orioles could be shaking up their clubhouse, a clubhouse that has been excellent, has been playing for each other, clearly enjoys playing with each other, and clearly benefits from veteran leadership like Austin Hayes, who has been with this club for now 7 years, played over 550 games in an Orioles uniform. Kyle, what kind of impact do you think losing somebody like Austin Hayes could have on a clubhouse that is going for it, has 2 months in which they have to make a push for the postseason, potentially for another AL East title, and now they're taking away one of their veteran leaders with just 2 months to go here?
Yeah, on a roster this young, 29-year-old Austin Hayes is kind of a sage figure, right? I just think about him in some of the club's biggest moments, able to kind of put words to the moments he was living through, as Andy just mentioned. Making it to the playoffs last year just felt like a huge, huge victory for him, Cedric Mullins, and Tony Santander. And I also think of earlier this year when the Key Bridge collapsed, and Austin was one of the players in the locker room talking about his love for the city of Baltimore, his love for the people of Baltimore, and he's just been in this organization for a really long time. I think there's a lot of things, certainly in retrospect, that make sense for the Orioles about this. If they're they have so many young outfielders. They're looking to get younger. Austin's pop is just not really off the charts, even though he's a good hitter for average. But he's just a presence, somebody who was always able to kind of coalesce ideas and visions for what this team could be, even long before they had the success they're having now. So I definitely think it feels like an interesting generational move on decision for the Orioles. But it's not without its cost.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Austin Hayes, remember when he first came up as a 21-year-old in 2017, it was as somebody who came directly from Double A, was having one of the best seasons of any minor leaguer, was hitting 377 in Double A. The Orioles were going down the tubes in the month of September that year. They brought up Austin Hayes. They brought up catcher Chance Sisco, and they were hoping to get some kind of youth, some kind of influx of talent into their system. And he kind of sparked something. He was making highlight reel catches in center field. He was doing stuff with a bat. He hit a homer. He hit just 217 in 20 games, but you saw something to build upon. Then he had an injury-plagued 2018. Didn't make it back up to the big leagues. Saw him a little bit the end of 2019, and then he became a regular big leaguer in 2020 and beyond. Made an all-star team in last season.
Last
Hit
year.
275. Yeah, hit 275 with 16 homers. Peaked in terms of power with 22 homers in 2021, and was a steady veteran presence on this team, and got to see the team go through the full rebuild from the depths of losing in 2017 and 2019 and 2020 and beyond, all the way up to a division title last year. So this is definitely a loss for this clubhouse. Andy, I would thought if the Orioles were going to trade one of their veteran outfielders, that it would be Cedric Mullins, only because he is a left-handed hitter and there is some overlap with both Heston Kjerstad and Colton Cowser, both of whom hit from the left side of the plate. Now you're taking a righty out of your outfield. What do you think this does for your right-handed configuration, and especially your outfield consideration? You get Cristian Pache back, who is a right-handed hitting outfielder, but he has not nearly the same offensive statistics as Austin Hayes.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I don't. I don't know what they're exactly going to do against lefties. I imagine something else must be in the works. You could see, if there's a flurry of moves. Connor Norby can play in the outfield. He's a right-handed batter. Kobe Mayo could see a call up if there are further moves of this nature. He's a right-handed batter. They would both help against lefties. But at the same time, Baltimore has seemed willing to play Colton Cowser against, in left-on-left matchups, and he's done okay. So I think, you're gonna trust that Anthony Santander as a switch hitter is going to be, he's going to be in the outfield against lefties, and maybe you grind through with Colton Cowser in center field against lefties and Connor Norby in left field against lefties. That would be my guess at this exact moment, rather than Cristian Pache out there. But Pache, obviously a phenomenal defender, can do a lot with his feet, but is not a consistent batter at this major league level. So I'd be surprised if there are huge. I'd be surprised if there's huge considerations to have Cristian Pache as a major piece of this major league roster. But I really think this was a move that focused mostly on, as I said, the reliever for Hayes. It frees up some space in the outfield for younger guys to get more playing time. Most likely, Austin Hayes was not here long term. He had talked about wanting an extension. His agent talked about wanting an extension. But that extension, obviously, at this point, was not coming. So, we just saw he's not on the team anymore. So obviously, it's not coming. Seranthony Dominguez is a guy that probably improves this bullpen. And so when you look at it, just from that angle, this is probably a good trade for both sides.
Yeah, what the Orioles are getting in Seranthony Dominguez. He is a hard-throwing right-handed reliever. He is in the 95th percentile in fastball velocity, throws the ball 97.6 miles an hour. That's the average mile per hour on his four-seam fastball. He does not get a whole lot of hard contact against him either. In the 90th percentile in average exit velo. The issue is he does not generate a whole lot of chases, not a whole lot of swing and misses. 47th percentile, according to StatCast, in whiff percentage, 19th percentile in chase percentage. We knew the Orioles wanted pitching, and I still think they're going to go after a starter. I think by no means are the Orioles done on the trade market. Kyle, do you think that the Orioles might be done in their bullpen, assuming they can get another starting pitcher in there, that they might look at that and say, all right, Seranthony Dominguez and another starter, and we're good to go for the second half of the season?
I mean, I honestly wouldn't be that surprised, especially, we'll have to hear on what's going on with Danny Coulomb, post his elbow surgery that he had. But if you're expecting Danny Coulomb to come back and, you might just be kind of holding on. I mean, this is kind of a classic. It's obviously a surprising move, but it's kind of a classic Orioles move. And all right, well, we have a guy that is not gonna be here long term. He's hitting a bit of a hot streak. Let's trade him high and get somebody whose value might be a little lower at the moment. And this kind of reminds me a little bit of last year with Fujinami, that trade where you get a guy with a lot of good stuff, but maybe not so much control and command. And so, yeah, it kind of rhymes with what the Orioles have done in the past with their bullpen. So I wouldn't be surprised, but obviously, I mean, Paul, we all know the Orioles need starting pitching, and if not for 2024, then for 2025. And to me, this is just the start of what I think the Orioles are probably going to do before the trade deadline.
Yeah, Andy, you still have that massive hole in the starting rotation. This trade of for Seranthony Dominguez and Cristian Pache by no means fixes it. Are you still imagining that the Orioles are going to make a move for a starter in the coming days?
You'd imagine there's going to be at least an attempt to. Definitely they're trying at this moment. Some names we've seen national reporters mentioned and linked to. Taillon from the Cubs is an option. There, some Reds pitchers, Nicky Montas, Nick Martinez could be an option. Eric Fetty from the White Sox could be an option. Those are all kind of mid-level guys, and there's obviously the Tariq Skubal from the Detroit Tigers and Garrett Crochet from the White Sox, and they would have pretty gigantic packages required to land either of those. So I'm a little less believing that it's going to be a Skubal or Garrett Crochet type. It doesn't necessarily need to be that to improve this rotation though. And Eric Fetty, Tyler Anderson, a guy of that ilk could be a major plus for this rotation to slot in as kind of like a third guy helps in the postseason to have that. But there's no guarantee. I mean, it's all of this is based on, what it has to be a real balance between, are the O's willing to part with a guy that could be part of this team for the next 6 years, really. And so there is maybe more of a chance of, hey, if you trade a Ryan Mountcastle, another veteran type player, maybe they go that direction too, and you say call up Kobe Mayo and play him. But that's a big decision to make. It's making your team very young, which is not a terrible thing. This youth has been look at Gunnar Henderson and what he's done at 22, so it's obvious, that young doesn't mean you can't be, can't be great. But it also is just this is a major shift of kind of clubhouse atmosphere and who are leaders. So it's interesting also from that respect.
Yeah, to
not
take out,
but yeah, it's basically, yeah, it's a big clubhouse shift at this point.
Yeah, to take out one veteran leader in Austin Hayes is one thing, but to take out another in Ryan Mountcastle, that might be playing with fire a little bit. But these are two teams, Orioles and Phillies, that are leading their divisions. They're two of the best teams in all of baseball. We saw in a June series how electric the atmosphere was at Camden Yards when it was loaded with Phillies fans, with Orioles fans going back and forth. And of course, the Orioles take that series 2 of 3 at Camden Yards. Two teams that also came out of the second half stumbling a little bit. Both these teams needed a jolt. They make a move like this. And Kyle, I think there's the potential. There's a lot of baseball yet to be played in the regular season before we even get to the postseason. There's a potential, though. There is a world in which the Orioles are facing Austin Hayes in the World Series months from now. I'm just saying, it could be happening.
I'm still wrapping my head around Phillies fans, potentially having a chance to react to Craig Kimbrell in a World Series, and now Seranthony Dominguez. Yeah, I mean, this is honestly, I know it's an interleague series, but this is an interesting matchup between these two teams. And the Phillies have these like big swaggery stars, and the Orioles are sort of more the youth movement of the MLB, and guys who are going to be promising, down the road. So I think it's really interesting to just kind of consider that matchup. I thought about it a lot when the Phillies were here, and how energetic the Philly fans were, how exciting that would be. Now, obviously, there's a long way to go until that time. And just while we're talking, I mean, and I thinking about the possibility that Ryan Mountcastle is traded. I mean, that's another right-handed bat. And if you look at some of the guys who are coming up from down below, I mean, especially in the outfield, you got Kowser, left-handed bat. You got Kjerstad, left-handed bat. You got Stowers, left-handed bat. That might be a little concerning. I kind of wonder about it. And when you think about the ability to match up, we were talking about the other day about, if in the postseason, they might throw out lefties to kind of switch up the Orioles lineup and get them a little bit out of sync. I'm a little worried based on this trade and based on who else is on the block about the Orioles' ability to do that and get to the World Series that everyone in Baltimore is dreaming about.
Yeah, we saw last year just how much the Rangers throwing back-to-back lefties in games 1 and 2 of the ALDS screwed with the Orioles' plans. Andrew Heaney starting game 1, and then Jordan Montgomery starting game 2, and the Orioles' bats, they picked up a little bit in game 2 right out of the gate, but certainly game 1, they did not provide enough run support for Kyle Bradish, and that's part of the reason they dug themselves into that hole from which they could not get out. So you worry a little bit about a potential playoff series about having enough right-handed bats if a team decides to throw all kinds of lefties the Orioles' way. But that's a problem, I think, for another day. The Orioles will have to wait to figure that out. They could still add, they could bring up Kobe Mayo for all we know over the coming days and weeks. That's an important right-handed bat. But fellas, I can't thank you enough for joining me here on the Banner Baseball Show. We have to get to Camden Yards at some point soon because we got some baseball to be played. Hopefully we'll hear from Mike Elias. We could have, hear from some of the players as to what they think of the deal, sending Austin Hayes to the Phillies for Seranthony, Dominguez, and Cristian Pache. And if you liked what you heard from Kyle Goon and Andy Kostka and myself, get ready to hear a whole lot more on Tuesday for a subscriber-only live event at noon. It's the three of us plus Danielle Allentuck and John Mioli. We're going to be breaking down all of the moves happening around Major League Baseball and specifically with the Baltimore Orioles. It's going to be a good time. So join us for that subscriber-only live chat. And, of course, subscribe to the Baltimore Banner. Just $1 for 6 months. Kyle Goon, Andy Kostka, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you at the ballpark in just a little bit. And for those two and myself, please subscribe to the Banner Baseball Show. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a 5-star rating. I will read it out here on the show if you do so. Thanks so much for tuning in. Could have another breaking news show over the coming days. Who knows?